Hey, what's good, everybody? How you guys doing today? I hope you guys had a phenomenal day. I had a pretty good one. I can't complain. I had to work, but that's all right. Money don't make itself, especially in this upcoming economy that we're going to have to deal with. But I wanted to bring a story here to you tonight, and it's probably going to be my last live stream of the year, obviously. December 31, 2020. Everyone's looking forward to 2021. New year, new me, BS. But with the craziness of the news cycle and how things have been, a lot of stories go under the radar. It happens every year. But this one, I think we kind of really want to get into here. And I'm not going to go too long into it, but when I first read it, I had to shake my head and think to myself, it sounds like the plot to a bad B-rate movie, until I realized it's not. Now, before I get started, please make sure you guys do me a favor. Smash that like button, share these episodes out, throw some comments in there. I want to get you guys' feedback. And as always, sharing out and smashing that like button is probably the best way to help grow these channels here, whether it's on YouTube, Library, BitChute, Rumble, Minds, MeWe, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and then, of course, Spreaker.com when we put this in podcast form. So let's pull up the story here. Well, before I do this story, one of the big topics of the 2020 presidential election and just the whole electoral cycle is the debate on climate change. Now, some people say that, we need zero emissions. I don't know how you'd function with zero carbon emissions, no oil, no gas, no transportation, no ships, no planes, no cars. I guess we're all just going to be hot-footing it like nomads from back in the day. Now, we know that's not going to work. And then on one hand, the other hand there, you got another group that says, that it's not real at all. I kind of lean more toward that end. To me, climate change is weather. Weather changes. The climate changes. We're not seeing these huge variances. Hell, we didn't get winter here officially with snow until a couple days ago. I'm used to seeing snow in October, but, lo and behold, what do I know? I'm not a meteorologist, nor am I a scientist. But obviously, you've seen everything from the Green New Deal. We've seen how they want to retrofit buildings. Did you guys know that Bill Gates is actually, and we're talking about Bill Gates again, I know. Not only does he want to chip you and everything else, but apparently there was a plan to block out the sun. Can you believe that? It almost reminds me, well, there was a Simpsons episode where Monty Burns ended up blocking out the sun, if I remember right. And if you guys remember, in the movie The Matrix, they blocked out the sun. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but let's pull the story up right now because this is one that you guys got to see to believe. And we'll get that overlay out of here. Let's pull that out. See, we do call them seasons. That's what I said. We used to call them seasons. It's weather. That's really all it is. Paris, how are you doing tonight, sir? Good to see you. But, yeah, according to Mr. Gates here, who's the most qualified man in all of existence, let's not deny this here. Mr. Bill Gates is the most qualified scientist. He's the most qualified biologist, immunologist, meteorologist. As a matter of fact, take any word you want, add the word ologist to it, and that's Bill Gates. Okay? Well, in this article here and several other articles, there is this initiative that was put out. It's called it's called, where is it? Well, let's just get into the story here. Philanthropist Bill Gates is financially backing an effort to reverse global warming by dimming the sun before its rays hit the planet. Wow. Nothing godlike about that, right? Have they really thought this one through? The plan, spearheaded by Harvard University, is to spray millions of tons of tiny mirrored particles into the stratosphere to reflect the solar radiation away from the Earth. The Swedish Space Corporation agreed earlier this month to give it its first trial run in June of next year by launching a balloon near the town of, how do you pronounce this here? Kiruna? I hope I'm not butchering that. I'm sure I am. A town in the Arctic Circle, according to Reuters. There were many real concerns about the risks of climate change and solar geoengineering, said David Keith, who was involved in the project. He's a professor of applied physics at Harvard Science of Engineering and Applied Sciences. Understanding them require a range of activities, including experiments, continued Keith, who is also a professor of public policy at Harvard Kennedy School. The unmanned test flight won't actually release any particles into the stratosphere. It will instead check communications and other systems and work out maneuverability issues with the balloon. However, Keith claimed it is important to begin leading up to the next step, releasing up to 2 kilograms of non-toxic calcium carbonate dust into the atmosphere, essentially chalk. Opponents of the project believe it amounts to treating the effects of global warming while doing nothing about what is perceived as the cause, reliance on fossil fuels as an energy source. There is no merit in this test except to enable the next step. You can't test the trigger of a bomb and say, this can't possibly do any harm, says Nicholas Hailstorm, director of the Swedish Green think tank, What Next? Swedish society is increasingly calling for real and immediate solutions to climate change, he said, such as a transformation away from fossil fuels toward a zero carbon society. Not sure how that works. Okay. But over and above these concerns, have the scheme's proponents thought through what might result from less sunlight striking the Earth's surface? As anyone, for example, consulted agricultural experts for their opinion. Less sunlight would theoretically result in a shorter growing season, lower crop yields. In addition to cutting into individual growers' income, lower yields could in turn result in global food shortages, even possibly famine. So the article continues, but this is where it kind of gets into it, where it talks about Bill Gates. Another red flag may be Bill Gates himself. Gates acquired his wealth by founding Microsoft, which is perhaps the world's largest developer of application programs and operating systems for personal computers. As Microsoft CEO in the late 20th century, if Gates didn't have a hand in the actual development of Windows 95 operating system, he more than likely approved its release. Windows 95 probably resulted in more people switching from PCs to Apple computers than any other single factory. And it goes on to talk about, the failure of the Windows system and everything as a whole. Here's my thing. If you guys remember the movie The Matrix, now, essentially it's humanity versus machines. Machines were coming in there to, go ahead and do their thing. One was trying to wipe out the other. And apparently this war had been going on for generations. As a matter of fact, humanity had been going on for so long. People were so immersed into the Matrix, people weren't really sure how long. But the one thing they did know was that it was humanity that blocked out the sun. They blocked out the sun because it was a belief at that time, as Morpheus had said, that what they would do is, if you like blocking out the sun, the machines were solar operated, you would go ahead and cut them off for their power source. Now, if you also remember, in the Matrix, the world of the real, as he called it, was pitch black. Like, there was no sun coming out. There was that one scene where Neo and Trinity were in that ship and they bounced over the clouds and Trinity saw the sun for the first time because everything had been blacked out for so long. And obviously, without the sun, you're not going to have trees, grass, food that grows, the animals that exist as a result of those plants. You're just not going to have it. Now, obviously, that's going to be a far worse case scenario, but we have to ask the question, what could possibly go wrong? You're going to pour all this stuff into the stratosphere and to reflect the sun. What happens if it really works so well that now you have global cooling? You've thrown all these particles into the stratosphere and you've essentially blocked out the sun. So not only do we have to deal with the potential of famine, the loss of lives, the vitamin D deficiencies, chronic depression, sundowner syndrome, that is a real thing. I guess I'm just flabbergasted at the audacity of some people. The claim that global warming, climate change, whatever they want to call it this week, if they claim that this is something that happened over a period of decades, maybe longer, but yet they want to fix it just like that, I think the concern here, based on what I've read, is that, yeah, I get it. If this is successful, you're going to get people that are just going to say, you know what, it's working, so we'll just keep relying on fossil fuels. So that might hamper technology, especially when it comes to alternative fuel sources. But I think worst yet is the potential for loss of life, both on the micro scale. Like I said, I'm talking anything green, anything small, to the macro scale, large animals, human beings, and the misery that will come along with that. So interesting fact about this, apparently this particular project's been in the works for about 3-4 years now. Now that's an interesting bit because, like I said, oftentimes we get so wrapped up in the political stories that we tend to overlook little stories like this. We tend to not think about them as being too much, or it's like, well, there's no way this is ever going to get off the ground. Well, newsflash. They're in testing phase right now. So they launched this, and apparently it was actually supposed to be launched out of the Southwest in the United States, but they ended up moving to one of the Nordic countries here, like we mentioned. But if they're in the launching and testing phase right now, and technology advancing at the level that it currently does, how long do you think before the implementation of such a policy does happen, such an event does happen, where they actually do manage to block out the sun? I know 2021, you guys want it to be phenomenal. You want 2020 to be over and back to normality. We let people like this guy, Bill Gates, and others like him continue with the projects they want to the ends that they want. 2020 might look like a picnic by comparison. But I just want to leave you with that thought. Guys, please, again, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe these episodes here. I do appreciate that. Comments, as always. And if you guys are going out tonight, make sure you guys are safe. Take care of yourselves. If you had a little bit too much to drink, get yourself an Uber, a Lyft, a taxi, call somebody sober. Have yourself a designated driver. You can't be replaced. Your vehicles can. And as always, be safe, take care of each other, become the best version of yourselves you can be. And I am out. Happy New Year.